What's going on YouTube? Examples TCG here, coming at you with a brand new deck profile. Now today's deck profile is going to be on YuGiOh Pro rather than in the physical format, and the reason behind that is solely and utterly because I didn't really want to bring you guys a physical deck profile with regards to Six Samurais, because number one, I don't see myself actually playing the deck, and number two, most of the Six Samurai cards that I have are in a different project for a different deck, and I didn't really want to de-sleeve all of the Six Samurai cards, put them into new sleeves and bring you guys a profile. Plus, most of the cards in the deck profile that I would consider building for Six Samurais, which is the one you're seeing in front of you here, I wouldn't actually have the cards for example, Raigeki, I don't have that. I don't have Backs to the Wall. I don't have 3 copies of Drowning Mirror Force. So there's a lot of cards that I don't have. Sorry, not Drowning Mirror Force, sorry, Storming Mirror Force. There's a lot of cards I don't actually have for this deck. However, at the same time, if I was going to build it, I'd end up deconstructing the other deck I have. And I feel like the other deck I have would be A, more fun to play, and B, is a little bit different to what people will normally be seeing. And I will be bringing you guys a deck profile on that particular deck on YuGiOh Pro as well, because I am still waiting to get hold of quite a few cards of that deck as well. So I thought I'd bring you guys a deck profile after this one on YuGiOh Pro for that deck, and then when I have the actual physical cards and I've play tested the deck a little bit more and I've made changes, I'll bring you guys a physical deck profile on the other deck. But anyway, let's get into the Six Samurai deck profile for today's video. And I've just noticed there's a few cards I want to take out real quick and also save this deck. Right, there we go. So we run 3 copies of Cage Musa. Reason behind this is it's the main tuner of the deck. In fact, I think it's the only tuner of the deck, and it works really, really well with the likes of Kaigeki and Alda alongside Kizan as well. So the plays you can make with Cage Musa: number one, you can normal summon your Kaigeki, special your Cage Musa off of Kaigeki's effect and synchro that way. You could even special summon your Alda, then also normal summon your Cage Musa and then synchro that way as well. So there's a lot of plays you can make with Cage Musa with most of the cards in the deck. The only cards it doesn't really synchronize with are the like the hands, the Grandmasters, and the other one-ofs that I play in the deck, which I'll get to a little bit later. But for the top row of cards that you can see right here, it does work really well with them. So I do run 3 copies of Cage Musa. I also run 3 copies of Kizan. It is one of the best cards in the deck by a country mile. This guy can be special summoned if you control another face-up Six Samurai monster without the same name as obviously himself. And whilst you control 2 or more face-up Six Sams, it gains 300 attack and defense, so it becomes a 2100 beta, which is insane. It's basically a Cyber Dragon, but you have to have another Six Samurai on the board. But at the same time, running 3 copies is probably the preferred option in every Six Samurai deck profile that you'll see. I then run 2 copies of Kaigeki. I don't feel like 3 is needed in the deck. You could run 3. There is an argument to run 3, but I prefer running 2. If I was going to build this deck, I would definitely be running 2. It's a really good card that works well with, obviously, Cage Musa. It can also special summon other Six Samurais that are level 4 or lower. So the only card that can't actually special out in the deck is the Grandmaster. So it works really well with every other card in the deck. I then run 3 copies of basically your Cyber Dragon of the deck, but obviously a very, very weakened version of Cyber Dragon, which is Alda. If your opponent even controls a monster and you control none, you can special summon it from a hand. 9 times out of 10, that ability only really works on if you go second. Solely not because obviously if you go second, you can then special summon it because your opponent more than likely has played something on turn 1, especially in the current meta where everything's so fast paced. They will more than likely have like 1 to 4 monsters on their side of the field on turn 1. So this guy can get you into your plays quite quickly. As I said, he works really well with Cage Musa if you also have Cage Musa in your hand. And at the same time, it allows you to special the likes of Kizan. You can then normal Kaigeki off of the special summon of Alda, then obviously special Cage Musa and also get your Kizan if your hand plays out that way. So there's a lot of explosive plays that you can make with like the top set of cards, which I've just gone through. So that is why I run the 3-3-2-3 setup with regards to those cards. So moving on to the other cards in the deck, I do run Hand of Six Samurai. I run 2 copies of this. I only run 2 copies because I would like to see at least 1 in every duel that I have. 9 times out of 10, I would probably end up siding out Hand for something else, like the additional copy of hand for something else, because the second copy I either will never see or it's not really used. So I guess you could cut it down to 1 and have a 40 card deck, which would probably make the deck a little bit more consistent. And upon thinking about it, I am actually going to take that out for the deck and hit save again. So 1 hand is all you need upon thinking about it. 2 is a little bit too much, so I do run the 1 copy of hand. You could potentially have an argument that you could put a spirit in place of the hand I just got rid of. I don't really like spirit. I think it's a little bit too slow. Yes, okay, it can bolster your likes of Xian and your Grandmasters, but at the same time, I just don't feel the need to put it in the deck. So I run 1 copy of hand upon, obviously, second thoughts. I run 1 copy of Grandmaster, one of your boss monsters for the deck. It's a really good card to have. I wouldn't run any more than 1 copy. I think 1's enough, so I run 1 copy of Grandmaster. And then run 1 copy of Sanji, 1 copy of Iru, or Iru, however you want to pronounce it, and 1 copy of Anishi. These guys are basically just fillers for the deck. They're also really nice cards to have after you special summon Kizan, for example. So, for example, with regards to what I'm trying to talk about, you could already have, say, Xian on your side of the field from your turn 1. Turn 2, you special summon Kizan, or even on the same turn, you special summon Kizan. You then can play something like Zanji, Iru, or Anishi, and be able to overlay into an Exceed monster. So that is why I run these 4 guys, plus their effects can actually be used to a good extent, especially Anishi. Iru and Zanji, not so much, but Anishi is definitely something that I would recommend putting it in a 6 Samurai deck. As I said, everyone has their personal opinions. That is the monster lineup that I prefer to run. I then run 3 copies of Asceticism with the 6 Samurai. This card is too good not to run 3 copies of, so I do run 3 copies. Basically, you can select a face-up 6 Samurai monster you control even. Special summon 1 6 Samurai monster from your deck with a different name but equal attack to selected monster. During the end phase of the turn, destroy the selected monster. So basically, you can run, obviously, Kizan. You can special a Zanji off of that. You can special another Kizan off of that. So it's pretty good, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. It's one of the cards that I do not think... well, it could run it with 2, but I prefer the 3 copies. It's just a little bit more consistent running 3, hence why I would run the 3 copies in the deck. I then would run 3 copies of 6 Samurai United. This card is a amazing card for the deck. When this particular deck was like really powerful and everyone played it, 3 copies was the norm. 3 copies would be the norm now, hence why I would put 3 copies in the deck. Each time a 6 Samurai monster is normal summoned or special summoned, place a Bushido counter on this card. Maximum of 2 can be placed on there. You can send this card to the graveyard to draw 1 card for each Bushido counter on the card. So having all 3 copies on your side of the field, both have, or all of them having 2 counters on, you could pretty much draw 6 cards in 1 turn if it turned out that way. 9 times out of 10, you won't see all 3 at the same time. You might see 2, you might only have the 1, but it's a nice card to kind of get into your plays if you're having a bit of a slow game. So 6 Samurai United played at 3 in my opinion. I then run 3 copies of Shein Smoke Signal. Add a level 3 or lower 6 Samurai monster from your deck to your hand. That allows you to get into the likes of your Cage Musas, your Hand, and your Elder, depending on the situation, and also your Kaigeki. So it gets you into pretty much every 6 Samurai monster that you have in the deck. That is the majority of the 6 Sams you run is level 3 or lowers. So it's a really nice card to run, hence why I run 3 copies of it. Soul Charge is pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, you can only run 1 copy as well. Same with Raigeki, you can just clear your opponent's side of the board and be able to attack through for direct damage. Or if you're in a sticky situation, it just resets the board and allows you to gain a little bit more control. And then Reinforcement of the Army, again, is pretty self-explanatory in a warrior, like a warrior-orientated deck, whether it be 6 Samurais or any other deck. This particular card is insane. I then run 3 copies of Storming Mirror Force. When an opponent monster declares attack, return all face-up attack position monsters your opponent controls to their hand, so it disrupts a lot of plays for a lot of decks. Basically, obviously, a lot of decks will summon all of their monsters in attack position, and they'll try and attack through and deal a lot of damage to you. This card basically resets them a little bit like Raigeki would, except obviously Raigeki destroys monsters, whereas The Storming Mirror Force doesn't, but at the same time, it just slows down your opponent. They have to make the same play again, and it's just a really nice card to have in my personal opinion, hence why I run 3 copies of it. I then run 3 copies of Fiendish Chain. There is another card that you could run other than Fiendish Chain. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's something along the lines of Lost Woods. I will just very, very quickly have a quick look at that. That's Lost World. I can't remember what it's called. It's something along those lines. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but you could substitute out Fiendish Chain for that other card. Unfortunately, I can't remember what it is, but you could substitute it out, but I do prefer the Fiendish Chain for the build that I'm running. I then run 2 copies of Double-Edged Sword Technique. This card is incredible. Obviously, it allows you to target 2 6 samurai monsters in your graveyard and special summon them in attack position. This allows you then to go into your Synchro plays again, your Exceed plays again, and it also negates the second part of it if you do end up Synchroing or Exceeding, because obviously when the cards are destroyed during the end phase, you take damage equal to the monster's attack. That means that doesn't happen when you Synchro or Exceed. So this card could potentially be run at 3, but I feel like 3 is too much. So I run 2 copies of the Double-Edged Sword Technique. I run 1 copy of Backs to the Wall. This is pretty much a last resort card. If you're being beaten up to an extent that you need a desperation play, this particular card can get you that desperation play. If you guys don't know what it does, basically you can pay life points, so you only have 100 left. Special summon as many 6 samurai monsters from your graveyard as possible. You cannot summon more than 1 monster with the same name, or a monster that has the same name as a monster you already control. So 9 times out of 10, you would not use this straight off of play. You don't want to use this when you have 8,000 life points, for example. That's just stupid. When you're probably around, say, 3,500, 4,000, that's probably when you want to pop this card, especially if you're losing. It just allows you to get into your plays a little bit quicker. You can overrun your opponent and potentially turn the game around, but it is a last resort card, hence why there's only 1 copy of it in the deck. I then run 2 copies of Solemn Strike and the Soul copy even of Solemn Warning. These cards are just stalling cards, basically. Obviously, this card, Solemn Strike, when a monster would be special summoned or a monster effect is activated, pay 1,500 life points, negate the summon or activation, and destroy the card. And then obviously Solemn Warning, you guys all know what that does because that's been around for ages. So I do run the three bits of Solemn, or the Solemn trio, I guess you could say. It would be nice if we could play Solemn Judgment again, but obviously that is currently banned. If you could play Solemn Judgment, I'd probably take out 1 strike for a Judgment. But as we can't, I play 2 strikes and 1 warning to round off the main deck. And then the extra deck is again a area where a lot of people run different stuff. I've seen people run 3 copies of the Synchro Shien. I've seen people run 2 and 2 of the Shiens. I've seen people run Crystal Wing Dragon in this deck. I've seen people have a different extra deck. And I don't know why I'm not running Crystal Wing Dragon in this deck, if I'm perfectly honest with you. So let me just change that. Take out a card that I don't feel is necessary and add in the Crystal Wing. So for the extra deck, we run 2 copies of Shien. Pretty much self-explanatory. This card is insane in this deck, especially if you ended up putting in a Spirit of the 6 Samurai and attaching him to the Shien. He becomes a 3,000 beta. So I do understand why people run Spirits, but in my personal opinion, I don't know whether I can fit a Spirit into the deck. I probably could. And I probably would if I was running this deck in real life. So if you guys want to, say, copy this deck and change some things around, I definitely add in a single copy of Spirit. I wouldn't take anything out in the main deck for it. I would just add in that single copy of Spirit because it works really well with Shien. I then run the two Notoria cards, which are obviously Barcon and Beast. Again, they're self-explanatory in the deck. These 2 cards have been played in 6 Samurais ever since I played against them and played with them. So they're pretty much staples, I guess you could say, in the extra deck. Then run a Soul copy even of Black Rose, Soul copy of Crystal Wing, a Soul copy of Brio, and a Soul copy of Trishula. Obviously, Brionic is one of those cards that you can literally just bounce cards back as often as you want. Trishula's just insane. I don't know why people wouldn't run Trishula in this deck. Crystal Wing and Black Rose are pretty much self-explanatory as well. So the Exceed lineup, again, people have run different variants on this. People have run the Utopia build. Like, people haven't run the Shadow of the 6 Samurai build, but I do like Shadow, so I do have one in the deck. So I do run a sole copy of Shadow of Six Samurai. 9 times out of 10, this is the exceed I'd go into if I am going to exceed. 90% of the time, I am looking to synchro, hence why there's more synchro monsters by 1 than there is exceeds. But at the same time, if you're in a situation where you can't get into your synchro plays, then obviously exceeding is the way to go. I'll 90% of the time go into Shadow of the Six Samurai Shien. I then run 2 cards that you could probably take out for other cards if you wished, but I just prefer these 2 cards. I've been playing this deck with these 2 cards for so long that I'm used to them. They work really well within the deck, hence why I run them, which is 1 copy of Blade Armor Ninja and 1 copy of Heroic Champion Excalibur. They work well because you have to use warrior type monsters to obviously play them. Excalibur, you can attach 2 exceed materials from the card. The attack becomes double its original attack until the end phase, so it basically becomes a 4000 beta until the end of your turn. And then Blade Armor Ninja, once per turn you can attach 1 exceed material from this card, target 1 face-up ninja monster you control. This turn that monster can attack twice during each battle phase. Obviously, that particular effect you cannot use, but it is a 2200 beta that you can run in a deck because you need to use 2 warrior type monsters. And I believe you could actually target himself with the effect, so technically you could use the effect 90% of the time. I'm not 100% sure whether I can do that, so I don't normally do it. Some people in the past have done it against me and I haven't really questioned it because obviously it doesn't state excluding himself, so you can more than likely use the effect on himself, which in turn would be pretty cool because you could attack for 4400 if there's a clear board. If not, you could probably get rid of a couple of your opponent's monsters and deal some damage to them. So Blade Armor Ninja is a nice card in my opinion. I then would run 1 copy of number 106 Giant Hand, 1 copy of Gagaga Cowboy, an Abyss Dweller, and also a number 101 Silent Honor Arc. Again, those 4 cards are personal preference. They're just cards I've been running in a Six Samurai deck, or when I was running a Six Samurai deck, those were the cards that I had in my extra deck. Obviously, the synchros were a little bit different. I didn't have the Crystal Wing Dragon, I didn't have Brio, and I didn't have Trish because I was playing the deck when all of Crystal Wing wasn't out and the other 2 were banned. But now they're back, obviously I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory to run the 2 Ice Barrier Dragons in the deck. But that has been my Six Samurai deck profile, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, please leave a like, rate, and subscribe to the channel for more trading card game content. Next video you'll see will probably be the deck that also runs a Six Samurai engine, but I'll get into that deck at a later date, probably 2 days time in my next upload, because I do upload every other day. So that's probably what you're going to see in 2 days time, and then after that I'll probably make another video on my trading card game, just giving you guys a little bit of an update as to what's going on with that. But nevertheless, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you do enjoy Destiny content or you're hyped about Destiny 2, be sure to go across even to my gaming channel and check out my videos over there. I've recently started it up. I have a video that has gone live the day before this one's gone up. So hopefully you guys go and enjoy that. And obviously the Destiny 2 beta is out today, so if you guys are not playing the Destiny 2 beta but you're interested in the game, be sure to go across and check out my channel. I'll have all of my thoughts and opinions on everything to do with the Destiny 2 beta and beyond on that channel there, so be sure to check it out if you are interested in that. But nevertheless, guys, thank you so much for watching. I shall see you in my next video.